Testing for Cody, testing for Cody.
Okay.
Hey.
We don't want to be late, do you, Charlie? Oh, so, okay, I'll stay on him. He's not even wearing his orange and white mask tonight.
No, but he's got his tie on.
Or his red and white, or let's see, which colors do you, it's SEC, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not wearing Tennessee
The
colors.
SEC needs some colors, so.
We'll have to think through that.
Yeah, well, it might be.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and start if y'all want to today. You can speak 30 seconds early. Is that okay with everyone? Okay, well, let's do that then. Scott, I'll turn it over to you.
So today I'd like to start with a moment of silence specifically in honor of Charlie McKenzie, who sadly passed away, and also for all the lives that were lost at the riots on Capitol Hill. And now if everyone could stand for a pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, board members, you have your consent agenda in front of you. Would anyone like to remove any items from consent agenda?
I'd like to remove the annual agenda.
Okay. Let's put that, after the student representative before site committee, okay? Is that okay with you, Dr. Bowden?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else? I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, please. So moved. And a second from Nate. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, we'll move to the regular agenda then. We'll start with Dr. Dyer.
All right, we're going to pull up the slide deck here, and Director's Update is coming up next. So we can go ahead and go to the next screen, Mr. Cars. There we go. So just have some important updates today, and there's some numbers lines on here that we'll be talking about as we go through this. But first off, the most important thing for me right this moment is finally the laptops arrived for Cleveland Middle School, and they were distributed last week. And I can tell you, I went over there a couple of times and saw that in person, and their team did a fantastic job of getting those out to the students and making sure that they learned how to use and turn all their new MacBooks and all those sorts of things that need to happen. So very excited about that. I want to thank Dr. Raper and his team and our innovations department for the job they did of working with Apple, and I'm glad that part is taken care of now. Now we can concentrate on our elementary and hopefully get those in sooner rather than later. Just a few updates here. General Assembly special session on education is slated to begin on January the 19th. We don't know a whole lot about exactly what will be on the agenda yet, but we do know that funding, teacher pay, accountability, learning loss, and literacy will be the themes overall. I believe that some of the bills that are going to be introduced are going to be going public tomorrow, so hopefully we'll be able to know a little bit more about the details of what's coming forth from the General Assembly. We also are now in receipt of $2.9 million received from the bond issues dealing with the Pi Center, so that has come forth. And our understanding from Sean McKay is that more funds are anticipated as the funds are drawn down to help pay for that ongoing project. You've also heard a lot of news about the new $900 billion federal COVID-19 relief package that's out there. And go back to that real quick. There we go. So the meeting, this relief package deals with meeting the needs of students furthest from the opportunity, supporting student well-being, making up lost instructional time, and capital improvements related to COVID-19. The state of Tennessee is receiving about $1.1 billion of that money, and our school system will receive $5.4 million. And this is new ESSER COVID CARES Act money coming into the district to support those different items that I've listed up there. Now, that money will have a lot of strings attached, and there's a very, very tight turnaround to have this completed. Dr. Barnes, our federal projects coordinator, is going to be extremely busy the next few weeks developing this plan. But we are seeking a lot of input. Every department is putting together basically a wish list, and we're going to be working with our principals on that as well. And it will cover just about everybody. We're going to be able to use that money for facilities. So anything dealing with COVID, anything dealing with clean air, anything dealing with disinfecting, operations, those kind of things can be paid for out of this funding, as well as, of course, instructional pieces, communications pieces, anything dealing with what we've been dealing with since March. This could help cover expenses we've already paid for, but also expenses we anticipate to come up in the future.
Will it pay for like a summer program for kids who've gotten behind?
Summer programming will be part of this, yes.
Okay.
So that's something that we're really working hard toward right now, and the state is also developing a program. I'm part of that committee that's looking at that. We're looking at the academic side of things. So that's something we don't have a lot to share with you tonight on, but I think in the next couple of months, we'll be rolling out more information on that.
What about internet access for kids that do not have access?
That's part of it as well.
That kind of
So there's a lot, just about anything you can fit that deals with COVID in some way can fit under these rules and regs. So that's something that we're looking at. We don't know, for example, the sewer project that we'll be talking about, the water project later, could potentially fall under this, or you could use that 2.9 million to help pay for that as well. So there's different things. We're still waiting to find out what are the rules of the road. And then we will know more about it. Right now, we've heard a lot about it, but we're still waiting for the written rules to come down from Tennessee Department of Ed. But it's a substantial amount of money that we'll have to be able to use on things that we either have already spent money on or will be spending money on in the future. So this is going to be a really good opportunity. Another great opportunity is the READ 360 program. The READ 360 is an optional grants for access to tutoring and online supports, access to professional development materials, and assistance with implementing strong reading instruction. So this is all about literacy. And this is part of the governor's literacy movement. This is going to be a very optional program. This is something that teachers or the district or the schools can opt in and out. There's going to be, it's like the way they describe it is a menu at a restaurant. You can pick and choose from the menu, or you can have the whole full course if you want. So that's going to be something we'll be hearing a lot more about. I know the state has put things out. There's been items in the newspaper, or there's a 360 website that you can go to. We know that there will be around $100 million, but we don't yet know what that spread looks like for districts that choose. It really depends on what all you choose to do as part of that. The good thing is we don't have to change our curriculum. Our teachers, our staff, are very happy with CKLA and what we're doing in our reading program right now. So we don't have to change any of that, but this money can help us take that training and go even deeper. So that's something that we're very, very happy about. The final update I have is just a reminder that Martin Luther King Jr. Day is coming up on the 18th, and all of our schools, including virtual, will be closed that particular day in honor of that holiday. So those are my updates for tonight.
Dr. I like the reports where you tell us we're going to get millions of dollars.
Me too.
Rarely have we had the problem of getting a allotment of money before we know exactly how we spend it.
Right.
It's usually the other way around.
Right.
So I'm not happy that we had the COVID, but I'm happy that the state is going to step up and help us with that. And that's good news.
I agree.
Any other comments from anybody? Okay, well, we are welcoming Vanessa Hammond and Lynn Bowles here tonight. Thank you for coming on this cold, rainy, yucky night. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair Robinson and the board for allowing this time, and I will be brief this evening. But 2020 was a good year for the Bradley Cleveland Public Education Foundation. 1 year ago here, we outlined for you the foundation's strategic plan and priority objectives. So without going into specific detail on those, I only want to emphasize that we are on target, and with both fulfilling our mission beyond expectations and improving the organization's sustainability. So of more interest to you is the program and project support for 2020. So I wanted to tell you first that during the 2020 calendar year, BCPEF provided program and project support directly to 6 Cleveland City schools. Additional support to Cleveland City schools assisted to address the unique expenses related to COVID-19, like we just talked about, including virtual learning and help to provide a safe environment, several items there. Specifically, last calendar year, $352,895 supported Cleveland City schools in 2020 through the Public Education Foundation. Of that amount, $255,016 was directed toward COVID-related programs. And this COVID funding for last semester was provided through a Tennessee Community Cares grant offered to nonprofit organizations in the state. And I wanted to praise, she didn't put this on the list, but I want to praise Lynn Bowles for her work on this grant. She saw it, she jumped on it, and she drove it through a long process to completion. And also to really praise Cindy Guerin, the Director of Business Operations for the school system. Lynn talked about how fantastic she was in working with her and cooperating. And so together they planned the expenses, managed, and then gathered all this copious detail and documentation required for this grant. And so it was a first-time federal grant for the BCPEF, and their work was really impressive. So glad it helped, and I'm really glad to hear about the new batch of funds that are coming directly to the system from the state. But overall, this support through BCPEF last year represents a 1,100% return on investment for the Cleveland City Schools Board of Education, based on your $30,000 support for BCPEF operations for this fiscal academic year. So that is exciting. We're excited about that. And I'll say it again, 1,100% ROI. So thank you for that operational support, which I'll mention again. But now looking forward, 5 teacher grants for 2020-21 are in process. They've already been awarded to 3 different schools for a total of $17,230. Yates Primary, Cleveland Middle, and Candy Street Cherokee Elementary received grants, teacher grants this year. So in terms of specific program support, as you've seen here on the screen, I want to draw your attention to this redesigned website, beautiful redesign. And on it, it features blogs. So as you scroll down on the site, and if you want to check it out every once in a while, and right now particularly related to Cleveland City Schools, the CHS Stimulation Laboratory blog is on there. So we'll be posting blogs about specific programs that the foundation is contributing to support what you're doing in the schools. It's been with this project, it's been particularly exciting to see how this has progressed, and it's such an innovative space, seeing it take shape. And also, as Lynn has collaborated with Principal O'Brien and Rennie Wittenbarger on this funding and also the implementation. So that's been an exciting project. Foundational to the support for this project was the creative thinking of the Cleveland High team to conceive the project, but also the initiation of the CHS Alumni Hall of Fame, because 2 major contributions were received for this project. One was from the Fitzgerald Family Foundation in the form of a Fitzgerald Innovation Award, and the second was from the George R. Johnson Family Foundation. And all 3 of the children, as you well know and remember, of George and Doris Johnson were recognized and honored in the 2019 Hall of Fame. And upon making this award to the foundation for the Stimulation Laboratory from the Johnson Family Foundation, the Johnsons emphasized how important and meaningful it was to give back to one's alma mater. And certainly that was really reinforced and stimulated by that Alumni Hall of Fame event. They were also encouraged that this project, and the Fitzgeralds as well, that this project would touch every student, every teacher could engage with this at Cleveland High School. So that's exciting, that tremendous impact of this kind of gift. And then further to add, when CHS was designated as a STEM school, that just really reinforced how impactful this project is, and also that it's such an important part of the focus for the school moving forward. So that's been an exciting thing to watch develop. So in summary, it's encouraging and a privilege to support the professionalism and the innovative educators who are on the front line in our community. We see amazing vision, collaboration, and commitment that reflects the exceptional leadership from the Cleveland City Schools administrators and the Board of Education. And we know this has an impact directly on our whole community and in it being a safe and healthy and prosperous environment here in Cleveland and Bradley County. So lastly, I just want to say again, the executive committee wants to thank you, board members, for the operational support that you've committed going forward. It's enabled us to leverage that commitment and to receive an additional operational funds grant from the Tucker Foundation for 2021 and 2022, and also another major grant. So it's been so encouraging for our staff and executive committee members to see that build on itself, and just facilitates BCPF's ability to plan and staff stability, our strategic initiatives, and ultimately fulfilling the BCPF mission for supporting local schools to its fullest. So we thank you, and I'll be pleased to answer any questions.
Anybody? Comments?
Thank you for what y'all do for our system and teachers and things. I know several of them have told me they really appreciate some of the grants they've gotten. Thank you guys too.
You all are just doing an outstanding job, as you always have, and we appreciate your time. You don't get paid, but you have a passion for education of our community students, and it's really nice to hear that it's perpetuating itself in this way. And, you know, having people into the school like we do for the Hall of Fame, maybe those alumni haven't been in there for years and years, and when they get to go in, they're like, wow, I didn't know this is what this high school looked like, and because we haven't been here for 20 years. So we need to make sure we get our alumni in the schools as often as we can, and thank you for your part in doing that too, because you all have led some tours for the schools and just really innovative ideas to lead this foundation and to take it where it is now.
Well, I'll say it's easy to support such a strong and successful and professional group of educators, leaders, as you all said. Thank you. It's our privilege.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, board, the next is the policy. And on this first reading of policy 5.3051, we need, when whoever makes the motion, if we approve this, we need a motion to suspend the second reading. This has to be passed on, or it's highly recommended to be passed on the first and singular reading. Dr. Dyer, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm gonna call Mr. Kaiser up, Human Resources, to actually brief you on this policy, because we want to make sure the public understands this.
So on December 31st of 2020, the Family First Coronavirus Response Act policy that you passed in April expired. And what that entitled employees to was 10 days of paid sick leave. So when that expired, it was not renewed by Congress. There is no mandatory requirement to do this moving forward. Employees have just been on their own leave, sick leave, moving forward for quarantine days and those kind of things. So what we're proposing to you is sort of a compromise, and this would be something that Cleveland City Schools picks up. Before it was an unfunded mandate. This would be something that Cleveland City Schools just decided to do for their employees. And what it would allow is kind of a continuance of those days, So it will be 10 days total for the year for our employees. So if they had 8 days left over from the first semester, they would be able to use those 8 days in the second semester. If they had 5 days, they would have 5 days to be able to use those in the second semester. If they have all 10 left, they would be able to use 10 days in the second semester. Just so you're aware, first semester, we estimate, working with Cindy, that cost us roughly $36,000 to do this. We looked at the financial side of things. We think we can support doing this for our employees. Chuck Cable has taken a look at our policy and has given his approval for it. And that's kind of what we're looking at doing in place of this expired policy for our employees in the second semester.
And just so you know too, a funding mechanism that could be used for this is that new ESSER 2.0. So that is an allowable expense, is to pay for substitute teachers for items like this. So we could potentially go back even in the first semester and reimburse ourselves for that cost. That all has to be approved, so I'm not saying that it can be done 100% because those higher up have to approve that, but it is something that is, as we know, an allowable expense.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Kaiser? I think this is great that we're doing this, because if I were a teacher, I'd be pretty worried about this. So when a teacher gets quarantined, but is not sick, then they're working from home, that's not sick day.
We allow them to telework if at all possible. There are situations where they would have to have a substitute, and that teacher may not be able to work at all, and so they would be using sick leave at that time, or could be using this leave if they still have that available to them.
Any other questions? I need a motion then to approve this and suspend the second reading, please.
So moved.
Okay, Charlie? Second. Carolyn? Any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Good, everybody. No opposed. It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. All right,
Okay, back to me. Well, I'm glad to see that pass. That's a huge benefit and something that gives a little safety net for our employees. So that's something that I'm glad we're doing. The strategic plan update. As you are aware, that we've been working with NIET, and we have several committees that are in play right now, just to make sure we're taking our strategic plan and bringing it to life, even during the middle of the pandemic, which has been a challenge, to be real honest with you. But we know that at some point, the pandemic will subside, and we're going to move forward, and we're moving forward now as we speak. We've been working hard with NIET to have our committees meet, and we have an elementary, a secondary, and a fourth undergraduate committee. On 12/9 and 12/10, before the break, we had several focus groups that were part of this process. And the focus groups took place with the following groups. We had a central office focus group, we had elementary admin, a secondary admin, elementary instructors, and secondary instructors, because we want to make sure that we get as diverse of opinions and thoughts about this process moving forward as possible. And those focus groups were tremendous. I sat in all of those and just listened. I just didn't say anything. I wanted to just hear what folks were saying. I think Mr. Carter sat in most, if not all of those as well. One of the things that, if we go to the next slide, that came from that are some overall takeaways from the focus group itself. And there we go, expand it out a little bit. Some areas that popped included some strengths, and we noticed some opportunities for growth based on what we're trying to do moving forward. 3 strengths include community, and that included school, district, and local communities were all listed as strengths. There was a clear sense of community support and engagement, and that came through every single focus group that was going on those 2 days. They really feel like Cleveland City Schools community is tight, and that our community, that school board supports what they're doing, that we as central office support, the principals, but also the larger community of Cleveland and Bradley County. They feel that support in the classroom, and the principal mentioned that as well. So that's a huge thing for that to be one of the top areas of strength. Innovation was another one. I can remember talking about this when I was going through the superintendent interview. You know, when we were creating targetable schools, one of the things I told you is I went and stole some ideas from over here, about things that were going on before we could create our own school system over there. This school system has been about innovation for a long time before I ever got here. And we're continuing to be part of that. We're continuing to be a very innovative, forward-thinking type of school system, and the employees that were part of these focus groups mentioned that and said that's a real strength of what we're doing here. And also educator support. The readiness and ease of getting support from their school and district is a strength. So that's good to hear that the folks that are part of that focus group feel like they have support, that we support the things they're trying to do in the classroom or at the school level, and that's what you want to hear. Now, there are also opportunities for growth, and some of this kind of coincides with what's at strength. Focus is one of them. Focus has been something that we've been talking about for 5 years, and it's something that I really want to drive down in this strategic plan. You can't do everything. You just can't do it. You'll burn out. So changing or adding priorities, programs, and consistency at the school or district is seen as a source of difficulty as it relates to depth of implementation of various programs. So that's what we have to get to, a point where if CKLA, for example, is our reading curriculum, that we really stick to it. And we provide the professional development and everything that goes with that and say, this is what we've chosen, we're going to ride this out. And we're going to do everything we can to implement it with fidelity. So that's something that we're doing now. And Jeff and his partner are doing a fantastic job with that, as well as alignment, making sure that our pieces connect together. Shifting roles, responsibilities, shifting priorities was observed to be a challenge. So that again kind of goes along with focus. It was interesting in those groups, one of the questions that's asked dealing with those two is, okay, so what would you draw? And when you ask that, it goes silent. Because everybody loves all the different things they're involved in, but yet sometimes we know we're over-involved. So that will be the interesting part, and that's really a big part of going through this process that we're doing now, is to figure out what are our priorities moving forward. What are we going to say, these are the things we need to accomplish this year, next year, and beyond. Remember, our strategic plan is a 5-year plan. And it's very easy to say, well, we got to do all this year one. Well, no, we don't. It's a 5-year plan, but something has to come first and something has to come last. So that's what we're working on with NIET, and we're making really good progress. The subcommittees are meeting again now, and then our steering committee will meet again toward the end of the month. So next school board meeting, I'll have another update as far as that goes. But I wanted to let you know these are the things right now that are popping from focus groups as our strengths and opportunity for growth as it relates to strategic plan and what we're doing includes in schools. So that's my strategic plan. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Go on to the COVID task force.
All right, and we'll call Dr. Elliott up to start, and then I will jump in when he's ready.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Last time we were here back in December, we were talking and looking, and I was just reviewing the numbers, and we were at, in our community, 750 active cases on that evening. And tonight, just saw an update, 1,216 for today, active cases. So our COVID task force has met a couple of times since the last time we gathered, once before the holiday break, and then as soon as we got back after New Year's, our team got busy working and looking at a lot of different information, studying our community, and also reviewing last semester's details of how things went, and kind of study those, and we'll get into that in just a few minutes. But a couple things I just wanted to highlight here is some of the numbers we always look at on a regular basis is not only the active cases, but in our community we look at the positivity rate. You can find that, like for instance, now it was about a week ago, 32% positivity rate in our community testing. Now we're at 20% right now. We look at that. We also look at our 7-day average of new cases and see how the trends are going on with that. Of course, we also consider hospitalization and consider things happening there and monitoring that. So, but in addition to that, we also are following, and it's posted on our website, we have the weekly update of how many individuals were isolated and how many were quarantined. Last week, our numbers were lower, which would be expected. We did have 20 isolated cases and 6 quarantine cases. that are posted now on our website for last week. So those are just some of the updates we review that data each and every time to kind of get a trend and get a feel of where we are on a regular basis. Since then, though, I will say that the last week of our first semester, we did have our at-home learning experience, and I just have to say a shout out to all our teachers for the innovative work that they've been doing online and utilizing and engaging our students online. Also, our buses ran on that Monday and Wednesday of that week, delivering meals. Over 14,000 meals were delivered on those 2 days. And I will just say, I rode the bus on that Wednesday, and it was just a blessing to be able to see the families receive the food. They were receiving 3 big sacks of food on that Wednesday to go home for those 3 days headed into the holiday break. A set of dry goods and a lot of drinks, milk and juices, and also produce, a big bag of just produce for the child, and an amazing thing. And I appreciate the hard work that all those individuals did to deliver that. This past week, last week, we finished up with Reconnection Week for the next semester. This coming semester to open up, and that was an important decision that we had to struggle with and make that decision. But we had our high school students beginning a new semester, getting new schedules, meeting new teachers. We had, like Dr. Dyer said, the deployment of the devices at the middle school. 1,143 devices were deployed last week, and that's amazing, a feat to get those in the hands and distributed out to our students. And also we had several of first semester virtual students have chosen to come back in-person experiences in the traditional format for this semester. So we had several students coming back for the first time since March, or even brand new students to Cleveland City. So it was almost like starting a new school year, even though it was the second semester. So we felt like that was very important, but to make sure we did it in small numbers, and that's why we went with the 25% again, like we did at the beginning of the school year. Our virtual school transition has occurred, and we still have around 500 students that are in our virtual program for this second semester, is where that landed. And so we are encouraged by the students returning. Mr. Kaiser and the principals and the staff worked diligently there the last few weeks before the break to make sure the staffing was transitioned correctly for that. The last couple of things here is just as updates, on Tuesdays this month is our plan to convene the COVID task force and really study how the trends are going, and then be able to be prepared to make decisions on Wednesday for what we're going to do for the following week. We feel like it's important for communication to our staff, our students, their families, to be prepared to make plans for the following week as best we can. During our time last week, and as we were evaluating the last semester and kind of looking at updated research, we had a good discussion with our task force and with our principal teams. And one of the aspects of it is we really dove into some research and looked at last semester data. And Dr. Dyer has some information to share tonight, and then we'll look at that and kind of dive into that a little bit.
Fantastic. Thank you for that update. And again, I'll second what Dr. Elliott said. From school nutrition to our bus drivers, to our teachers, our teacher aides, and everybody working in our schools, and quite frankly, our central office too, it's amazing to see the success we had first semester. And, our parents, our families, our students have been just fantastic as well. This has been a hard process. Nothing about this year has been really all that easy, but, I didn't sign up for an easy job, and I know, that's the same way for everybody else that works so hard every single day to make this machine work. So that's something that I'm really proud of, is the Cleveland City Schools family coming together to make this happen. We have a plan that you approved in June for our COVID reopening that has worked and served us really well. We've been able to be pretty consistent with that plan throughout the first semester, and really had success with it. Our teachers have adapted, our students have adapted, principals, families for the most part. and it works. But I do feel it's important as part of my job when I see new research that's out there is to bring that research to you so we can have a discussion about it to see if our current plan is the way we need to continue, or do we need to make some changes and some revisions to our current plan and adapt it to maybe what a new research model is showing. You know, being now one semester into school, a lot of school systems across the United States have been open, and really across the world. So research teams that do this kind of work have now had time to learn and to study and develop a research document, and that's what we're going to walk through tonight. Be glad to answer questions at any point through this. Laura Hudson cannot be here tonight, but Kelly Kaiser and Laura have discussed, and he knows a lot of those pieces of the puzzle, so he's available with Dr. Elliott, with the task force being our chair. So I'm going to walk you through this tonight and make sure that you're aware of what this research holds. This is called Schools and the Path to Zero, Strategies for Pandemic Resilience in the Face of High Community Spread, which, quite frankly, we still have high community spread. As you can see, this is from the Edmund J. Safra Center for Ethics from Harvard and the Brown School of Public Health from Brown University, and also an organization called New America. And this is on our website for those listening. You can go to our board agenda, it's linked there, so you can follow that link to read this research on your own. So why new guidance now? And this comes straight from the study. It says we can now recommend that schools be open even at the very high levels of spread we are now seeing, provided they strictly implement strategies of infection control. Now, this is part I'm inserting here. This is my own part. In June and July, we were still in crisis mode, and our current plan was based on our current knowledge of virus spread. So that's where we were. We took the latest research, based a lot of it around NIET and CDC and other factors, and created a plan, like I said, that served us well. Going back to the briefing, it says this briefing focuses on measures of infection control necessary for in-building safety at high levels of community spread. So that's kind of the beginning of this document, and where we'll jump in. Now, looking at our own data, Laura Hudson was able to provide this chart, and as you can see by looking at this chart, our elementary total numbers, our student total numbers of COVID active cases at our schools was 181 cases in the fall. For staff, it was 58, for a total of 239. That one thing I want to make sure everyone's clear about, that doesn't mean all these cases were caused because students were in school, okay? So we're not saying that 181 cases were because of community spread that happened within the classroom, cafeteria, or other spaces inside of the school building. Those are the total number of cases that we count because those students are part of our school community. Now, the research will show you over on the right-hand side that clusters associated with schools often seem to originate from outside the school, and rather than a result of within school building transmission, and that very much is the case here. What we see generally is because of things that are happening outside of the school walls, whether it be different events take place, whether it be family or otherwise. That's usually where we see things that affect us. And when we know we have a kid or a student or an adult in the building who has now tested COVID because of whatever reason, we then contact trace. And that's where you see those numbers get fairly large from time to time. So that's something I want to make sure the community is aware of, that you're aware of. These numbers that you see, I will say it one more time, they do not reflect just within school transmission. Okay. So it goes on to talk about in the study, general topics and settling on a strategy. So what do we need to look at as a school board, as a superintendent, as a community, when you're moving forward, looking at what strategies are best moving forward for a reopening, we're no longer reopening with a COVID-19 plan. And a few things, 4 things actually, I think we're look at. Trust is the first one, dealing with 4 challenges. 1, ensuring that student, staff, and educator communication is clear and concise on what we know and what we don't know, quite frankly, about transmission of COVID-19. And safety factors go with that. So one of the recommendations is the Health and Safety Committee at every school. And that's something that, we can definitely move toward. We have a district-wide committee that looks at this, but nothing says that we can't have one each school to also look at it inside that school to do that moving forward. B, continuing to build confidence in public health guidance and away from the politics of COVID-19. I'll just kind of leave that there. Continuing to build trust and consistency with our families, and then the level of acceptance of vaccination in our community as well. And those are four big things that help build trust in the overall process of where we are. Another piece of this deals with transportation, and I've talked to Hal Taylor numerous times about this, and I know you've asked questions about this as well. We want to continue to make our bus rides to and from school as safe as they can be. And one of the things that we do, and you can continue to do, as mentioned in the study, is put the window down 2 inches. It's as easy as that. When you put the windows down just a few inches, then you get that airflow in the bus. Now, we're in a cold season right now. And even though we may start with a window down, that doesn't mean that window might come up as the students get a little cold on that bus. So that's something that's hard to monitor when the bus driver is driving down the road. But we do our best as far as that's concerned, but I can't guarantee, and I doubt anybody could, that that's 100% going to take place all the time. But I think overall, we've had good luck on our buses. I don't know too many cases that are traced back to our transportation system at all. Very few, maybe a handful, or any.
Probably no cases that we can trace back.
Okay, so no cases at
To
this
the
time
bus.
you can trace 100% back to a bus transportation issue. And the last one deals with infection control. Number 3 here, infection control. As they say here, 3 months of research shows that schools that are in person and using effective mitigation are unlikely to be super spreader type of events. Now, by now, the term super spreader is something that we are using a lot, and super spreader events are where COVID spreads quickly and to a large number of people in a hurry. Schools at this point are not shown to be those after 3 months of research. The best infection control measures include the following, and what you'll see in italics, these are things we're doing every day. These are just part of what we do. What you see underlined, these are the things we're doing to the best of our ability, but I can't guarantee you every classroom, every space we're in is able to do that. And then you see the last one. So masking, hand and bathroom hygiene, achieving the 4 to 6 air changes per hour of clean air through our ventilation systems, as well as robust quarantine and contact tracing. We're doing that each and every day and doing it well. Now, when you look at 3 feet social distancing for young learners at all levels of community spread and the 6 feet of social distancing for secondary, when your levels rise above the 100 to 1,000 daily new cases or 3 feet when below that, that's the part I can't guarantee that we can do that in every single space. We do our level best and our teachers are doing a great job, but it would be hard pressed for me to say that we do that in every single situation that we have. And the last part there, where feasible, surveillance and screen testing for COVID-19, that's something that's under consideration still by the task force. TEOH, the health department, there is a format now where schools can become testing centers for COVID. There's pros and cons with that. And that's something that Kelly and our group, our task force, has looked at. Right now, we've chosen not to go down that road because it's one more burden on the school nurse, and it really could impede the contact tracing and other things that we're trying to do. So, my personal belief, the health department has a great system here for COVID testing. I've taken part of that, and it's a very efficient, very good process. And I was able to get through my testing fairly quickly that I've done. So that's something that we can always talk about, but that's where we are as of today. So, what research is showing about COVID transmission in schools? As I've said, the growing evidence that students are not at heightened risk from school reopenings. That's what 3 months of research is showing. Right now, they're just not seeing it. The research does not bear out that because you come to school in person, COVID is becoming more of an issue for a community. Now, the other part we want to deal with is, the adults in the building. That's just as important to me and to you, I know, as our students. And that's something that we want to take very seriously. The research is showing, again, through this body of evidence, that school reopenings with strong controls in place have limited impact on community transmission rates for students or adults. So that's a good thing. Clusters, again, I've already been through that part, but clusters are not happening because of being in school, they're because of what's happening outside of school. So it's, again, another piece of that puzzle. The National COVID-19 School Response Dashboard shows that school staff have a cumulative infection rate from August to November of 1.9 versus 1.5 for communities in which the schools are located. So that would show you, if you didn't read the rest of the research, that there's more transmission at 1.9 versus 1.5 from people in the community. But if you go on to read, the higher number, that 1.9, includes suspected cases. The 1.5 is definitely confirmed cases in the study. So just a piece to keep in mind there when you look at that. You have to read the whole study to understand that piece of it. But the 1.9% includes suspected cases and confirmed cases. The 1.5 that are part of the community spread, that's just confirmed cases in the community. And then the line that's in here in the research, teachers face no greater risk than comparatively low-risk frontline workers such as grocery clerks or retail workers, and far less, I know this is not very glamorous, but far less than meat packers and healthcare aides, for instance. So, that's the research. Those are the facts from the study. This is not my opinion. This is just coming from the study that our teachers and our adults in our buildings really are no more risk than the person who's checking you out at Publix or at Walgreens or so forth. And they're not seeing the community spread happen more with teachers or staff in our buildings, central office, bus drivers, so forth. That's where the research is. Okay, so that's what it's showing. So some study recommendations, and I'll preface this by saying this is not exactly how we operate. We operate mainly elementary and then secondary, so we group things together. But I'm taking this straight from the study so that those of you in this room or somebody else reading or watching this later can see exactly what's in the study. Their recommendations for prioritization is, first of all, let's get your early childhood or your elementary students in school, making sure that they're in school on a consistent basis. That should be the first priority for a school system. Grades pre-K through 5, and then students in particularly vulnerable groups at grade levels pre-K through 8. So by that, it's really how you define it, and the study really doesn't define that word, but we think, you go with your CDC students, students who have severe special needs that really could be in a school setting, as long as you can do it safely, and as long as you have staffing for that. That's an important part of the puzzle, and you can space those kids out. That's important. A second priority would be bringing back your middle school and students in particularly vulnerable grade levels 9 through 12. And then a third priority would be our high school kids and bringing them back. And like it says here, capacity requirements may be met by adjusting the percentage of students in the building at one time through hybrid scheduling. So moving on, the implications for our plan. This is where, if you're ready for deliberation and talking, this is where it comes in. I'll read through all of this, and then you can go back and hit whatever points you want to hit. Some questions that I came up with, and you probably have more questions too. One, does our current COVID plan serve the best direction for our school system to continue to follow? I've said it before, our current plan has worked well. We have a good, solid plan. We can continue with that the rest of the school year if we choose to do that. Or, does the board believe that moving to a plan with the priorities outlined like this research shows may be a better plan? Does it make more sense for our community to move to a revised plan like what we've discussed or I've discussed here? Another question, are we implementing universal precautions to the degree necessary to implement this type of revised plan? Now, what this revised plan could look like, quite frankly, green and yellow phase would basically look just like it does right now. Green phase would be our least restrictive, and we have different phases of green already in place. Yellow phase is a little bit stricter. When you're in elementary school, for example, your music teacher goes to the classroom instead of the students traveling to the music classroom, then we do some mitigation factors such as that. The red phase would really be the difference maker if the board chooses to go a different direction. So red phase, our elementary students, pre-K through 5, and our particularly vulnerable students would continue to come to school during red phase. And they would be still coming to school on an everyday basis for in-person learning. And our middle and high school would come on an AD schedule. Okay, so that would change the way that we operate in a fundamental way as far as red phase is concerned. And we've already talked about, you may have different phases of red like you have different phases of green, because there could very well become a part where if we have, and I'm just making this number up, that if we had 2,000 active cases in Cleveland City Schools, we very well may need to go to all virtual all the time again. So there could be some phases built into that where you take care of those issues. And also, even with that, if you don't have the staff, then you may not be able to open a classroom or a third grade wing or a school in general, because you have to have the adults in the building to make it happen. So that's something that we would take into account as far as this is concerned. So that's something to think through. Secondary students in a model like this, the task force, what we've talked about, you would have an AB schedule Monday through Thursday, so students would come to school Monday, A group would come Monday, Wednesday, B group would come Tuesday, Thursday, and then Friday would be virtual for everyone, and that would be something that we would do moving forward. So that would be something, if we decide to go down this road, if we were still in red phase next week, this new plan would come into effect next week, and that would give us the rest of this week to do communications and all the pieces that go with that. So that's what I'm presenting. Dr. Elliott, if I missed anything here, or Mr. Kaiser,
No,
that I need to bring out that I forgot?
I think you're right on, and we've had some preliminary discussions with the secondary folks of what that hybrid schedule would look like with the AD, terminology, and those kind of things. So working through logistics, we still have some things we want to work through after we have our discussion here tonight, but that, we've had that discussion.
So with the AB schedule, are you saying that they would be in person Monday, Wednesday, virtual Thursday, Friday, and then the next group would be, would they alternate, they would still be in school Thursday and
We
Tuesday and
discussed this.
Thursday?
It would be a full day for the in-person group, 50% on Monday and Wednesday. That would be like a blue group. And then Tuesday and Thursday could be like our Raider group and be Tuesday, Thursday in person. And then everybody on Friday would be online and in virtual pieces. We have had some discussion. I met with Mr. Stone at the end of last week as we started looking at this research and reviewing it. We talked about even like the self-contained special education students could come. The days that we're in person, we can work that out at the middle and the high school, potentially coming more than those 2 days coming for those, at least the 4 in-person days, so that we can work with our students in that regard too, for intervention purposes.
But the red group, say the red group that's going in person Monday and Wednesday, would be virtual Thursday, Friday. Thursday.
Tuesday and Thursday, and then everybody would join in on Friday. Yes.
So you get 2 days in person and 3 days virtual.
Yes.
Are your big group either one?
Yes. That's the way it would work.
How do you propose that the A and B groups would be split up?
We will go with, the idea would be to use the last names, A through L by family, and M through Z for the remainder of this year, based off of the same that we had used for Reconnection Week. You know, we had 25%. We would just combine the first 2 groups to make 50% based off of the family last names like we had done earlier in the year with our Reconnection time.
By doing A through L, would that help in the classrooms? You would probably only have half your class there at the time, right?
Yeah, that would be the goal. Of course, you can't guarantee that in every classroom. I mean,
It's going to be less than the full class.
that's the goal, is to bring it to 50%.
And I will add to, the reasoning behind using an AB schedule as secondary is because when you go back and you look at you go back to that beginning chart that Laura Hudson had. Right there. When you look at the chart, you can tell the middle school and high school, we've had more difficulty with COVID transmission. That has happened somewhat more in school than elementary. That's the case when you look nationwide, and that's why you're seeing schools doing an A/B schedule. I know our sister school system, Bradley's been doing that. Hamilton, some others are doing that. So this is not a novel idea, but I didn't feel comfortable bringing it to the board until there was a body of research that showed this is a safe way to move forward. So that's why you're getting it at this point, is because now we do have some research for that. Nate.
So the research that you're mentioning, that's just one body. There, you didn't consider anything else, right?
No, I mean, you could probably find research that goes different directions. I jumped on board with this because Harvard and Brown are two known entities in medicine and in interventions and things like this. But you're right, this one body of research that I'm looking at.
Lisa? Yeah, so would the A/B schedule at the high school, and I guess the middle school, allow for that 3 to 6 foot spacing in the classrooms that we're missing by going fully on in person?
I would say in the vast majority of cases, yes, but there may be some cases where that would still be a little tight. I can't give you a, for instance, right now, unless these two gentlemen might, but there could be cases where some classes may have still 15, 16 kids in them, and another may have 8. That could be the case in some instances. So I think you would have a much better shot at it than what we've been doing.
The junior English might have a lot of A through L's in there.
Right.
I mean, just don't know, right?
Right. But for the most part, you should be able
It's gonna be
to
reduced some.
spread out more, and teachers could be a little creative in how they do their desk assignments and those kind of things.
And I will say that we talked about that in, as far as the break at the middle of high school, based off of the research, but also we know that, of course, our individual students now have those devices in their hands at the middle and high school, so that is a natural split as well.
I had another question. Did we do any internal research on our own to see the impact that this is going to have on our staff?
Regarding our staff, we talked to the principals and looked at it as far as quarantine. We watched that, and we know that over like at the middle school level, back before Christmas, if you remember, we did have to go to at-home learning for the middle school because we did have a higher level of staffing, quarantine situations. And so even in this situation, this phase that we're talking about, if a specific school had a staffing issue, it might have to be, the building be shut down and with that. So we did look at the numbers based off of last semester and staffing related to that and looked at those couple of individual cases that did occur by the schools.
And I would tell you, just from my perspective, looking at staffing, this does give us the option to look at individual schools and maybe close an individual school like we had to with the middle school, just because we really didn't have a student issue at that time. We had a staff issue. We can close an individual school, especially at the elementary level, close an individual school and allow all the other kids to continue coming to school rather than looking at one big blanket number. If that makes sense. Gives us a little more flexibility to target maybe a specific closure that may need to take place because of staffing.
Is there a reason that we don't break our reports down weekly by students and staff? It just says the total number, but it doesn't say, is it because we might figure out who it is or just to protect privacy? Because it would be really nice to have that kind of breakdown every week, and how many students and how many staff, or maybe system-wide staff, not necessarily per school. Is there a reason, or is that hard to do? Is it?
I think originally when we first, go ahead. No, when we first said that part of it was the privacy thing, if it was specifically by school and a certain smaller staff group like that. But that was
It
one
gets down
discussion.
to what, like for example, on that chart, gets down to one person in operations, and we're talking about a week. And everybody in the building knows that so-and-so is gone this week.
Yeah.
It kind of identifies them. So I think that was the initial thinking of why it was done that way.
Could we, would it be hard then to do it in the weekly report by total staff for the school system? And that way nobody would know, there's no way to figure that out.
I don't think it, I mean, we
I
have.
think we need, yeah, I think
We have-
it's just a matter of changing the report a little, that's easy enough to do.
Because I don't care about which building, but, you know, Dr. Diane told us about, we've got to close the middle school because of staffing issues, and we all talked to him, and he told us that. And so it would be nice, and I think it'd be helpful too, when we get the phone calls and the inquiries, if we said, we said what Dr. Diane told us was, we had a shortage of staff, and we can't have school if we don't have staff in the building. So I think that weekly report could reflect that. That would be helpful probably to the public as well.
Yeah, well, we have another task force meeting tomorrow afternoon, so we can bring that up to the task force and add that in.
I have a question. I was just wondering, do we have any way to know how many of our staff have had it and there would have some antibodies against it, and how many perhaps have had the vaccine?
Really, all I can tell you right now is basically what we see on the chart. We know for a fact that 56 of our employees have had COVID at some point during the first semester from August or whatever that date is until the cutoff date there.
So it's safe for students to be in their class because they're not going to spread it to them because they've already.
Well, I don't know if I would say that because there have been some cases of second times of COVID. So, you know, I'm a doctor, but not that kind of doctor. So I'm not gonna say that's the case, but I understand what you're saying and how that works. As far as vaccinations go, I think it would be very few of our staff right now. Maybe some of our nurses that's about it right now. And just speaking of vaccinations, I'll just go ahead and put this out there for the public. We're really waiting on Tennessee Department of Health to say teachers are green lighted and educators and K-12 people in this area. So we're in area 1B of the prioritization chart, and they're still working right now with 1A. So it could be late January, February, beginning of March before educators are going to be part of that. You know, I've had dialogue with Commissioner of Education. I've emailed the chair of the House Education Committee about this. So doing all we can behind the scenes to try to get things going, but we can only do what we can do as far as that goes. It really is going to be dependent on the state. Getting that out there.
I had another question about your plan. And I know there's a lot of unknowns around the new strand that's being talked about. Can you speak to whether or not you think this plan would be feasible for that if it hits the Cleveland, Chattanooga area?
I do, and that's something, you know, this science will continue to change and modify. Evidently, the virus is able to change and modify itself in some ways. And again, that's for a science way higher level than I am. But that is something that is possible. And I think that's where that red phase would come in with multiple phases, where if we see a community spread that's happening that's getting completely out of control, we have an emergency lever we can pull to say, okay, we need to shut down this district again and go back to virtual learning until this number comes back down. So I do think we would have to look at that, and it's one of those things, we're just gonna stay on top of this the whole rest of the school year. Now, whichever plan we go with out of this meeting tonight, we're just gonna stay on top of this every single week.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate. I'm sorry. That's what I appreciate is the fact that this is a moving target.
Right.
And you're willing to look at it every day to see what is the best thing to do.
Yeah.
So I would feel much more comfortable if we already kind of had an idea of what that red phase would be. Because I would want to know, is there a number that would pull that trigger, and what would that number be? And knowing that would make me feel better about going into a new plan. I do understand and agree that, you know, we want to keep our kids in the classroom as much as we can, as safely as we can. And I do recognize the benefit of them moving face-to-face as much as possible. But I would feel more comfortable kind of having a little bit more direction of where you saw those kind of cutoffs being.
And I know that we've had some brief discussion about that. I don't know if we've put anything to paper yet at this point.
You mean to transition to the elementary being in person and the middle school and high school?
More like what Dr. Dyer was talking about, the red phase, having some levels. That maybe there might be a point that we reach that requires us to just pull the lever and say everybody's going virtual because of the spread.
Yeah, we haven't set a number for that piece of it. We, in our mind, just kind of beginning to discuss the options, of course. Where we are on our red phase is like we have done the last couple of weeks, where we had to pull the trigger for red phase. That would essentially be this new proposal with the elementary school in person and the hybrid AB, and then, but the last stage, this could be like stage 1 of red phase, and then the stage 2 would be that complete at-home learning, and that's the part we haven't established a specific cutoff number based off of that, or at that point.
Dr. Dyer, have you discussed any of this, say, with Dr. Cash or Dr. Johnson as to how they feel about this plan?
Yeah, what I can tell you, as far as Dr. Cash, she and I have talked, not necessarily about this specific plan, but I've talked to her about what they're doing, and they're noticing the same thing. In elementary schools, the spread is not being noticed. In middle school and high school, you're seeing a little bit more of that, so that's why they're doing that AB. But I've not talked about the specific research or what we're talking about doing with her, just in general conversations about how's it going, how's it working, those kind of things.
Well, they've had a number where they have closed, like Walker Valley was closed for 3 or 4 days, so I don't know what that number is either, but I know they're on that
Well, that dealt with staffing.
staffing.
So staffing is really what drives the closing of schools when it comes down to it. When you run out of staff, you have to pull the trigger on that.
Skylar?
If I may say something real quick, I do know that a lot of students really would really do learn in person, like just like home is a rest place, work is a workplace, right? But have you considered the impact that it would make on the teachers and how they would implement their learning schedules, and whether that would create a delay in the learning plan? Because I know a lot of teachers are only creating a virtual environment or an in-person environment right now. And the idea of creating both, making sure those virtual students are caught up and making sure those in-person students are also caught up, I know that I feel like that would be a lot on them.
We have discussed that. We met with the secondary principals on Friday as we had reflected on this research over the last week and talked about that. And so the focus would definitely be on the in-person group, the days that they're there. And then thank goodness that we have the learning management system, Canvas,
Yes.
at the high school, Google Classroom mainly at the middle school, but they do some of the Canvas as well. So a lot of that preparation during the in-person then would be uploaded activities and lessons for the student to do online at home on the next day, and then they would come back in person. So the priority would be the in-person focus during that day, being available to answer a question as students had questions, but the focus of the in-person would be with those 50%, and then the online activities and work would be done on the opposite day. So there would be. Now, of course, our teachers have had, as you know, experience already, and there will still be some of that, where if a student is quarantined and it's their day to come on a day or to be there, there's potential for them to be able to log in, and our teachers have juggled that already for those med-ISO situations. So those individual kind of cases would still arise, but you're right, it is multiple platforms. It is a lot for a teacher to juggle, so we have discussed that and believe that we would get more bang from the instructional side of things by having that really focused instruction face-to-face, and then giving the students the time to do the work later, and then come back the third day and reset face-to-face again.
Do you think that would delay the curriculum at all? Making like a third day like that, that seems like it would be more like doubling the process that it takes.
Well, I think in any situation, we're seeing a little bit of delay. I mean, we're doing the best we can, but like you said earlier, the face-to-face is the best on a daily, every day to have them in person, of course. But also, a teacher could really front-load those specific assignments where you're having that direct face-to-face, getting the information, taking that in, and then applying the activities and the work that you normally might do right there in face-to-face, apply it in online. So there could be a balance of it. It's just it will be a transition of thinking, but it can be done. And a lot of teachers have adapted well as far as online activities and doing that right now. So, whichever route we go, we know our teachers are facing these challenges, but they're doing it in a great way as best they can. But it is a tough situation.
And just one thing I would add in that, and it deals not necessarily with the teachers in this, but we also have to think about the variety of students that we serve, including city schools. And we have a wide diversity here of lower economic and also the very highest economic strands. We fed 14,000 students last week, but that's still 14,000 meals, but that's way below what we normally would do if all students were in session. So when you start thinking about other aspects, academics first and foremost, yes, but also how are we feeding students? How are we making sure that they're staying warm during the day? Those kind of things are things that we think about as well. That doesn't necessarily translate to a document very well, but those are kind of issues that we do have to think through as we get into this. Again, the plan we have right now works well. If y'all decide to go that direction, we can finish the school year using that plan. It's working. It does operate. But honestly, we may be virtual for a couple more weeks if we stick with that. I'm gonna, we deviated a little bit last week because we needed to do some really important things, but plan is the plan moving forward. And if it's red face and that's where we are, then that's what we do. So it's just something to think through, and that's why we're having this discussion tonight, because I do want us to think through that.
I will piggyback on what Dr. Dyer just said about the meals. Talked to Gina Reed just to kind of talk what if, how would that look? And so essentially what would happen is the day that the students come in person, of course, they would eat their traditional meal, follow their schedule as normal. And at the end of that day, there would be meals waiting on them as they exit the doors that they would have food for the next day for while they're at home. And so that's the way that would work, but also they would be available for pickup at the school site for the other 50%. So they're looking at covering it in two different ways, if that's in this scenario here.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm understanding it right. Before, first semester, we were making our decisions based on, for it to be a red zone, based on the total population of our county, right? Now we're going to make our decisions based on our school population, because we found out that the school population is far less vulnerable to the COVID virus than the people that are not in school anymore. Does that make sense? Is that right?
Yeah. That transmission rate in the schools is an important piece of that.
Right.
Yes, that's what you're saying. And so at the elementary level, if they're all open, the building is open, there could be, though, an individual school or grade level in that school that there is a high transmission rate. And it could be that, or a certain classroom. It might even be that, hey, this individual classroom is going to virtual, but it was just contained in that classroom. So the transmission rate, exactly what you're saying.
Well, previously, we did not know that children were less vulnerable, but we're seeing that now. So we've got different information, to take into consideration.
But you're not completely disregarding the community.
Right.
You're still watching that, and if it reaches a certain point, then it might trigger.
Right.
And one last question. Just to clarify what you were saying to Skylar, so on virtual days, if I'm student A and I go on Mondays and Wednesdays in person, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm not joining synchronously online, listening to the class. I'm working asynchronously on my own.
Charlie's next.
Kind of go what Crystal was on that number. It used to be 1,081 was the active cases in the county. So then what Peggy was saying, so it's more what our numbers in the school. 1,081 was 1% of the county, right?
1,081 would still trigger the red phase to move into this plan that we're discussing. So that would still be an important number for us.
Right, that's
So when you hit that trigger, that still puts us in this phase where we go to the hybrid AB plan.
And the county health department was pretty close, and they said in December, it's gonna be December 13th, the spike, and it was 14th. And now they were saying the 10th. What's our active cases now?
1216 today, they were 1231, I believe, yesterday. So
it went down from yesterday a little bit?
just a slight drop. from yesterday. So, yeah, so we're watching those numbers
It's
closely.
been going up and down over the last few days.
So going back to the AB plan or your schedule of Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, and we mainly been talking about the teachers, as Skylar was. Have we done any research on the student side? Because, months ago, I've mentioned what are those technology hurdles? And so have we done anything to ensure that those are not going to be encountered? That's the first part of the question. Then the second part is, have we considered alternate plans for AB instead of go in person, virtual person? Have we considered Group A go Monday, Tuesday, and then Group B go, to create some consistency there for the student?
I'll answer that. Yeah, we looked at different, we researched different systems who have tried different hybrid models as far as that's concerned. And as we were talking at the secondary level, we believe that the way this proposal would be is having that face-to-face instruction, setting it up for the follow-up learning on, completing the assignments the next day, and then coming back for more face-to-face instruction was the most solid instructional plan, so that we are still seeing them. Plus, physically providing the meals, like we said, we're able to do that every other day, thinking of the students who are leaving, so that when they leave on Tuesday, if we doubled up a Monday, Tuesday group, and they didn't come back until Monday again, it was a lot of space and time. So we believe that at least doing it every other day like that, for two reasons. Instructionally, setting it up that way was a better plan, and also it helps us in distributing the food on a
It helps the day in between on it. If you were there on Monday, and you don't come back to Wednesday, instead of having two classes, if you went 2 straight days, would that increase the chance of the spread a little bit? I mean, you gotta know, you're in class on Monday, you don't come back to Wednesday, it separates 18 kids or something, the day in between there. Does that help maybe a little bit on the?
It might. I don't know the Going back to your first part of your question, I don't have data points right here in front of me, and Dr. Raver could not be here tonight, but what I can tell you is anecdotal evidence. Today, Mrs. O'Brien sent me a text and said all but 200 students at the high school were part of their virtual classrooms today. So when you translate that over, it's about a 13% absentee rate, which is about where we've been hitting every day for whatever reason anyway here lately. So that's good. In middle school, I don't know the exact number, but Dr. Lang has been sharing with us that it seems like every time they do this, more and more students are online, and of course now they have their laptops. So that should help even more with that issue. So that's what I know off the top of my head right now at that moment.
Well, and I'd also like to point out that the AB schedule actually helps those that don't have access to technology, because they're at least able to come to the class 2 times a week, whereas if they were all virtual all the time, they'd go for however long we were out without any interaction and ability to get instruction. So it does help with the technology issues that some might face.
And I know we're talking a lot about the secondary level, but I do want to make sure we understand the elementary level. We're not forgetting about them by doing a 5-day classroom experience. That's something that I know teachers or family members or whatever may be a little concerned about. Why are you doing 5 days in elementary, but doing an AB split at the high school and middle school level? But we try our best to go by facts and not by facts over fear. I know that's something everybody says, but that's what we're trying to go by. Or what are the facts and what does the research show? Well, this body of research shows that elementary students can, for the most part, as long as we can put in as many mitigating factors as we can. You remember Brittany from the health department talked about that when we looked at that in June. You may have a list of 15 mitigating factors, things that you can do. You may not be able to do all of them, but do as many as you can. And that's what we're implementing in all of our schools, in this building and everywhere else, as many as we can. And that's something that we're going to continue with in the elementary, doing as many mitigating factors as we can. But our own body of research, our numbers just don't bear out that we're seeing COVID cases because students are in school, or transmitting over to the teachers because students are in the building. We still need to make sure we're staying on top of wearing masks, grades 3 through 5, and K through 2 in the cases where a teacher may have an underlying reason for that to happen. That, just from my experience, I can't say most, a whole lot of our K through 2 kids are wearing masks when I'm out visiting schools, so I think that's good. We are social distancing as much as we can. We are washing hands and hygiene and doing those things. So, I understand elementary folks may be a little apprehensive about seeing that, but I hope they hear that we're trying to follow the evidence, try to follow the facts about where they're going. I'm also not under the assumption or that, if we stick with our current plan, some are gonna love it, some aren't. If we go to a new plan, some are gonna love it, some aren't. And we're gonna hear from both sides, and that's part of it, and I understand that. You're gonna hear it, I'll hear it, and that's fine. But, that's why I wanted to have this discussion tonight, to see what you wanna do. I think if we move from here and stick with our current plan, we probably should stick with that current plan the rest of the school year. Because it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to stop in February and say we're gonna finish with another plan. So I wanted to bring it up at our first meeting of this semester and just put it out there, discuss, and figure out which way we wanna go.
I just have a quick question. There's no way for us to know whether a student's out, absent because of being quarantined or having COVID, do we?
We can somewhat know, as long as the health department coordinates with us and the parents can be okay for that information to be shared.
We know quite often because our parents have been really good to let us know.
Yes.
So we can take care of doing what we need to do as far as quarantining students.
Right.
And then the health department, our local health department's been great to work with as far as being able to share information back and forth. So,
Because you need that information to make your decisions.
yes.
Right.
Krista?
So talking about the elementary schools.
Right.
And if they're 5 days a week in person, is there a number or a percentage at that individual school that it would reach that would cause them to, or do you know that number?
Well, that's something that I think our task force would have to look at tomorrow. So that's something that we would come up with and then make sure it's shared out with you and the community and staff and everybody else to set that number. Because there has to be a point where you say, okay, that's red, second phase of red, or whatever the case may be, and that means we need to close the third grade wing or, the school, whatever the case may be. And of course, it doesn't matter which yellow phase, whatever we're in, if we lose our staff, we're gonna have to do something that's
But
specific
I'm talking
school.
about students.
Right, student-wise, right,
Because I
yeah.
understand staffing, but I
Right.
wanted to make sure that there was some kind of a,
Yeah, we'd have to have a trigger mechanism to fluctuate between those at an individual school level.
This doesn't have anything to do with the plan, but where are we as far as subs? Are we having?
It's a struggle. I'm just gonna be honest, it's a struggle. I mean, we have had a solid group that has hung with us. We have 5 more that applied today. I mean, we have gotten kind of the word out on the radio station and some other places, but it's still a struggle. I mean, as I told you guys before, it was a struggle before COVID hit, and obviously this doesn't help anything. But we've had some options, and we've had to when we can look at individual school closings, that may help us in some of those situations. But it's a struggle.
Charlie?
If we decide to do this, we're gonna start next week.
Well, our COVID task force will meet tomorrow, as we do on Tuesdays. We'll start looking at the data and kind of reflecting where we are tomorrow, and then make a decision on Wednesday and share out. So it would be prepared to,
So if we start next week, that's a 4-day week, so we would go Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday, not have.
We discussed this, we would go ahead and begin with our B group on Tuesday because.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Tuesday, Thursday, and then the Wednesday would go the 1 day, and then Friday would be distance learning. We would follow the schedule because if we have a snow day, let's say 2 or 3 weeks down the road, and we're out on Wednesday, we're out on Wednesday. And we pick up just, in order to be consistent with the schedule for families and everything, whatever we dedicate, like what we're talking about, that is the day. And if it's on a Wednesday, we're out of school, then no in-person people don't come. If it's a Monday, in-person people don't come. So we would stick to that schedule. So actually Tuesday, if that's the first day of it, it would actually be the B group who would get the first day in person.
So you'd have, A group would have Wednesday, only one day in the classroom, and then Friday would be virtual. That's
Right.
what you're saying. It could be a snow day. or something.
And just as a side note, this is a little off topic. Speaking of snow days and virtual experiences and things like that, we did hear from the state lawyer, if there is a snow day, and I hope there is someday, if there's a snow day, it's a snow day. Okay, we're not gonna insert virtual days. You have to burn the days you have set aside for inclement weather before you can move into saying, you got laptops at home now, everybody sign on. So that's good news for everybody that's listening, is the fact that the snow day will remain a snow day or inclement weather day if that comes, so, until we run out of those days.
Carol, I really am so happy that you're thinking about keeping those elementary children in school 5 days. I mean, from experience, I know we're missing a lot and have missed a lot. And I just think it's a great plan.
Well, you know, again, the school systems have been doing this, but we've been good about, you know, following the facts, following the research. Research was at the beginning of the year, what we've been doing. This is one study. There are other studies out there that may show other things, but this is one study that I've really paid close attention to, and they've done some good work in the past, and they called it, you know, basically what we did in the fall. This is what this group developed, came up with.
So Carolyn, you know, that you mentioned that, I'm sure you all have read too, there's a lot more incidences of mental health issues.
Yeah.
And the small children are having anxiety, they're having more stress for the little guys because they're not in school. And so we're beginning to see a body of research on that. And, you know, to me, that is a reason to get those little guys in school if we can keep them safe.
And they know that they're going to go to school every day, unless they're sick. And, you know,
The other heroes in all of this are our parents because, you know, we've got the plan and we follow the plan and they're trying to work and they're trying to make sure their students are keeping up with their schooling. And it's been so hard on the parents, and they've done an outstanding job, our Cleveland City Schools parents, and they've been supportive. And, you know, we recognize their challenges. We do. Nate, you've got little ones in school. You have those challenges, and I think that we all are in this together. So I like to hear from parents, even if they're not happy with the decision we make, because we have to make decisions based on the best information we have. And I think that we need to give Dr. Dyer direction, whether we want him to move forward with this plan and bring us the details after the group meets tomorrow, or we want to scrap this and just stay with what we have. And I think, I hate to ask to make a recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, both plans are important. The plan we've had, like I said 3 times now, has worked well, but I will say, I've been impressed by the research. You know, there's 3 months of work that's gone into this. Brown and Harvard are both very reputable sources of information. I'm not gonna say they get it right 100% of the time, because there's always gonna be a little human error in there. We know the science can continue to change and modify, and we'll have to stay on top of that. You know, if this is still a thing next year, this may need another plan. I don't know, but I hope it's not. But you know, I do feel we could move into this new plan and implement it well. It will be a change. There will be those disagree with it, and I get that. And, you know, we respect that. And that's something we just have to make sure we're telling the why and telling the story behind this and go from there. But, you know, I do feel comfortable if the board chooses to follow the new recommendations and move forward from there.
So I think we should entertain a motion anyway, so that we can get in clear direction, and it can be to accept this plan or to accept this plan after we hear the numbers, or I would like to make some kind of decision tonight because everybody's going to be hanging in limbo. Well, I guess we stay with our regular plan. If we're going to change it or not, I think the community would like to know what our intention is, because they have to change it. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
Okay,
that we, go with the new plan and, give Dr. Dyer and his staff the, opportunity and the know-how that they have to, implement it, for the best of our children and community.
is there a second?
I'll second, because I really have a lot of faith in our staff and Dr. Dyer and the committee, because I think we're looking for what's best for our children and for our whole community. And if it needs to be changed, I know that you will come back to us and say we need to change it.
Is there any questions or discussions? If not, then I will ask for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Dr. Dyer, it's on you.
So the next step, we're gonna get communications out to employees, we'll also get it out to local media, families, of course, and start the information phase of this. And that will happen very soon. Task force will meet tomorrow afternoon around 3. If folks have questions or input, they can email us at cvquestions@clevelandschools.org. That's on our website. We take that and we go through that and we look at those things that come in from parents, employees, just community members. So that's another way they can get in touch with us. We'll meet tomorrow. We'll look at all these different pieces that you brought into play and communicate back to you and to the public by Wednesday afternoon about what we need to do the following week. Be great if we moved into yellow next week. We don't have to worry about any of this necessarily, but this does give us some option. We appreciate that.
And along those lines, I just wanted to stress the importance of the community support in helping us to mitigate the spread within our community.
Right.
That's the best way that we can keep all of our students in school all the time.
Absolutely.
So I encourage the community to continue doing whatever possible to mitigate the community spread.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Okay, well, we'll get to work on this and communicate out as many ways we can to families and use our social media, use email techniques, the media locally to do that too, and make sure this is crystal clear.
Is there any way that we can push and help the educators get the vaccine quicker?
I would say be in touch with anybody who's an elected official because the General Assembly is back in session starting in March.
They see more people than just about anybody, because they've got all these kids in their
Right,
class.
I agree with you 100%, and that's why I've sent my emails and done some behind the scenes things to try to do whatever I can do, limited, but, you know, if you can get in touch with elected officials, that's a great way to maybe help that happen.
At the very least, start with the faculty and staff and anybody in the building that is 55 and older. You know, if they have to do it in degrees, work your way down, at least
Right.
for the higher risk. But I heard today, someone told me that they started giving them to teachers in Georgia.
Yeah.
So, okay, Tennessee, come on. All right, Skylar, we're gonna get your report next.
All right, so my school report is actually fairly short because, you know, we've been out for 3 weeks. But I have a very, very big announcement that many HOSA students, which is our health club, health science club, qualified for state, which is a huge accomplishment in academic programs, any sort of academic program. Another great thing is that our softball team has been established officially. And I did review the list, and although I don't know much about softball, I do know that many of the girls are dedicated very much in the classroom, so I know that they'll be dedicated to softball as well. And something that I would like to, that's the end of my school update, but something that I would like to use my public voice for is to really appreciate the school system from the secondary school perspective, because I don't have the perspective of the middle or elementary school. For just the time, energy, and effort put into our COVID program, getting the stuff that we need, laptops, Wi-Fi, food. And I always knew that it was a dire situation, but it recently hit home for me. My father was sent to the hospital and wasn't able to get a bed just because of coronavirus, so he was sent about an hour away. He's doing fine, but it really hit home. So I just want to drive home the point that many students are essential workers, many parents are essential workers, many students are at home with high-risk individuals such as grandparents, such as little toddlers at home, whatever else. And despite precautions in the school system, sitting down for over an hour around multiple people that you know, been out with friends, maskless, whatever else, is quite terrifying, actually. And sitting in a school building, a closed school building, for over 8 hours with over 1,000 people is also quite terrifying. I know that we did say facts over fear, but bringing that into a school environment tends to be a bit distressing for a lot of students, I know. But even with the case, hopefully we will be back in person soon. And I do know that a lot of the spread is due to the community. So it really just takes compliance from everybody. So I would like to tell everyone to just wear your mask, stay at home, and whenever possible. Like wash your hands, practice proper personal hygiene. Really, like you should always do that. But and just like socially distance and do whatever you can to stop the spread.
Thank you, Skylar. That was a very good report. All right, we're going to talk about the annual agenda, and you all got a copy of that. And this is the time that we make changes on it. And the annual agenda is just kind of the skeleton that we go by month to month to know what we typically talk about each month. And so it's also on our website so the public can see it. So if they want to know what we're going to talk about the high school curriculum, they can go there and see that. And so it serves that purpose for the public as well as us, but we always have an opportunity to make changes to it. So Krista asked to pull it off, and she has some good ideas.
Yeah, I just saw some items on there that I thought might be worth revisiting to see if we wanted to maybe make a note on the annual agenda that maybe as needed or as appropriate for things like the Tennessee Legislative Network representative, if that's still applicable, the NSBA, which is listed in May and October. And then also I noticed that the strategic plan initiatives is still part of the additional as needed section, and wondered if maybe we might add that to the monthly agenda since we are doing that now anyway. So I just wanted to kind of look at that and see if there were some things we needed to tweak to make it more representative of what we're doing.
Well, I think that's a great suggestion to do that strategic plan initiatives. That's monthly now. And that's a good suggestion. And the NSBA, you know, we don't belong to NSBA anymore because TSBA dropped out of NSBA. So I don't think that's important. Maybe it'll come back, and if it does, we can add it. So that's great. Do you want to make that as a motion for those changes, Krista? Or does anybody have any input they would like, any ideas they'd like to add to that? As you know, it's not set in stone. We can still put whatever we want on our monthly agenda, and it's up to Dr. Dyer and the board to decide what we want to have on our agendas. If it's not on the annual agenda, it doesn't matter, but at least just make sure we have those discussions at certain times of the year. So, do you want to make your suggestions in a motion?
Sure, I move that we move the strategic plan initiatives from the as needed section to be included in the each monthly section, and to remove the references to the NSBA in May and October.
Is there a second?
Well, about the TLN.
Well, we do send a name to TSBA still for TLN, even though I don't know why. And that's, Carol, you can find that out for us since you're on the TSBA board, because they disbanded their TLN committee. But I think they still ask once in a while for a TLN name, so.
We have a meeting in February, so I'm sure.
I'll second Krista's motion.
Did you get that motion here, Julie? Okay, any other questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. That's unanimous, great. All right, site committee. Charlotte.
Al, is Brian up there with you?
Yes.
Oh, Brian's here?
Yeah, Brian, we got 4 different proposals on here.
And I was gonna ask a favor if we could, we didn't know Mr. Strong was gonna be here, could we move so that it's kind of in the middle of everything?
Okay,
Could we move that to the first? Make
Sure,
is that
that's
okay?
fine with the board.
That way he doesn't have to say.
He's been here since 5:30.
So I'm reporting back to you on,
he's graciously offered to come just answer any questions that you may have. I have gone and we said we needed to find out about whether we would give Lee the property or lease the property, and we had some other questions come up, so I've done some research. And just to fill you in on where we're at, there were several things I found, but what it really came down to in talking to the city attorney is we aren't able to give the property. There is a way that the property would have to be disposed of, and it would take a special situation to be able to give the property away that we probably would have a hard time meeting. So basically, the property has to be offered to the public for sale or auction. And again, talking to John Kimball. So as far as that goes, we are looking at where we can lease the property. So we can still do that, but as far as giving it away to Lee or giving it to Lee, I need to specify that make light of that in any way. It is best for us to look forward at doing a lease. And of course, the property, like all of our property, is actually deeded to the city. So anything you decide, we will then have to take and send to the city council for their approval as well. So that's what we're looking at. And in speaking to the city attorney, and speaking to Mr. Strong, and like I said, let me introduce, this is Cole Strong, Vice President of Operations, so just so you'll be familiar if you're not, for Lee University. And speaking with him, looking at what the county did with them, they did a 20-year renewable, automatically renewable lease. It had a 12-month termination clause. And in talking to Mr. Kimball, the city attorney, that sounded like that would also be something we could use as a model if you choose to do so. We would also, I'm sorry, $1 a year? Well, yeah, yes, it's $1 a year for that lease. And then what we would do is also include probably 2 clauses in there. One, that we would get approval of any lighting that would be put on the property, and that the tree buffer between the homes on the west would stay there. They could clean it up, make it look nice, but that tree buffer would stay in place between the property presently and those homes. So that's what I'm looking at, bringing to you the information I found. If we wanted to make this move forward at a faster pace, then what we could do, we could use attorney that the city presently uses for real estate. And if he did the lease, he could incorporate these items into it, and he could be looking at it for us. That was acceptable. It was strong, that we could work it that way. They would provide the plot for the lease and take care of paying for that service. And, but you would actually go ahead and do it, and that would save us a step in them drawing the lease, sending us, and then us having to take it to the attorney. If this is the attorney the city would have used and is recommending, then we could go ahead and do it that way. So I would bring that for you, just as a, a thought.
Would they still be able to build a walking bridge?
I have looked into that extensively. We have ADA laws. We don't want a bridge. The cost of a bridge on our side of the property and upkeep would be expensive. They are now, we had the MOA come last year, if you remember, and they're auditing our schools every 5 years now. And because of the pitch going down to that creek from the school, and talking to the city engineer and looking at what that looks like, it would be very difficult and very expensive to put a bridge there. And what we can do for a much less costly expense would be come back on our side and make a footpath that goes down around. Where the concrete is, there's actually quite a bit of room between the walkway and the creek. So we could come build another path, and that would be a possibility of building a different path that would meet ADA requirements and go around the same direction of the sidewalk, but be farther back from the road. But that's something we could do, and then it could tie right into where the bridge goes over the creek and so forth. So that would be a possibility, but as far as the bridge, when I got to looking into it, that was gonna be quite costly. So that would be one.
Any other questions?
Hal and I have also looked at, you come down from Mayfield too, there's a wooded area right before you get into the fill out project. And Dr. Dyer, Hal and myself, we met with Dr. Khan and Cole. And I know the way they do stuff, that really it's gonna look good on their side. And we could possibly maybe clear some of that woods out as you go into fill out, maybe get a little more playground area for the Mayfield kids, you know. And this sidewalk could open up some possibilities, but
Yeah.
I know Lee will make it look great, and maybe we get the sidewalk down there, maybe clean up some more. So Mayfield has very little outdoor play area, so we,
I'd love for us to have some way to have access, to it that looks good.
Yeah, and I think that's achievable. When I did get there's also liability. It just, the bridge may not be as pretty as we would like when you start trying to look at building it where children can't get to the creek. So we also have liability issues we would face.
it's gonna be so costly.
Somebody fell off of it or something like that.
So we don't have a lease to approve, and I just was talking about Dyer, but what we need from everybody, Charlie, is a vote to move forward to get a lease, pursue a lease, and then that would still have to come back to the board for approval.
Can I make that motion?
You
I'd
can
like to make that motion to leave
to
the
pursue.
lease, and we're gonna leave University, going through our city, right? The city's gotta check it out, so I'm.
You'll have to approve the lease and then it would go to the city council for that.
So we gotta get the lease first, but we want them to have authority to move forward and,
Leave, or leave, get going on it, right?
yeah.
Okay.
It'd probably take a little while to get things going anyway, because I know lawyers are usually pretty busy folks, so it'd probably take, I think, a little time.
So we need
Should be
to
by our next meeting.
make a motion to approve, we're gonna get a lease,
To pursue a lease.
Pursue a
Have
lease. okay?
And then we'll have to approve the lease whenever.
Because I got faith in Cole and Dr. Khan, it's gonna look great down there.
All right, is there a second? Thank you. Any other questions, Hal, or?
Before we vote, I just wanted to mention that I am an employee of Lee University, and so I do plan to vote.
If yeah, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Good. Move
Thank
forward
you.
and
Appreciate it.
get that
Great,
lease.
thank you, sir. Let me just say,
Sorry we made you wait.
no, hey, no problem, no problem. I appreciate, we appreciate the support and happy to come before the school board at any time to, give updates. And Mr. Taylor and I will work on this lease and get that back to you as quickly as possible so we can turn this around and make it official as soon as possible.
Oh, great.
Well, let me add, if you've not been by there, you need to go by there, it's gonna be a world-class track facility and soccer and lacrosse.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we could get a tour.
Absolutely, we'd love to have you out for a tour.
We love it.
We got a race.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Wanna go back to one, get Ryan in here?
Yes. Mr. Kemp.
Before Brian gets up, for you guys to know these two right here, I mean, Hal and I are phone partners almost daily, Hal, but he does such a great job, and Brian, we appreciate you, man, and he's gonna talk about the long-term facility, Brian.
Thank you. Yes, sir. I'll do it.
Good evening. Since the last meeting, we have been working on trying to pinpoint down a scope of services that would fit Cleveland City Schools' needs. We've had conversations with Dr. Dyer and Hal about how to handle that. And what we've done here, I can go through it, but essentially, what we've identified is the process that we would go through. It's very similar to the previous study that was done leading up to this, as far as series of gathering information, interviewing principals and faculty, involvement of workshops at appropriate stages to take community discussion and input or present ideas. So the scope talks about, working with Hal and taking the information that he's already developed in his 5-year capital improvement plan and combining this into a document that would forecast what the future would hold and looking at intervals of 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years. So any questions about any of those points?
I know we talked about this before, we did this in 1996, and when we go back and look at that now, it's amazing. It is right on, exactly, as close as you can be when you're predicting the future. But it was used numerous times by the city council and even the county commission when we took it to them because of funding issues for facilities, and they could see that it wasn't just a fly-by-night, the school board got together and decided they wanted to put an addition on a school. But it's been in a long-range plan, and that we follow that, and that helped us secure funding sometimes, so it's just a great thing. Any questions for Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I can go through these point by point if you want me to.
They've all
but-
read it, I think.
Okay. And the one thing that we did identify, we talked about it previously, we are looking at the Denning Center a little closer, and we pulled that out. What we want to do is to expedite that so that we can use that information to inform decisions that we make in this overall facility study. And then also, we had suggested that it would be a very valuable resource to take a further, more in-depth look at the high school because of the nature of that facility where you have something that was unified as 2 different facilities and then we've made significant additions with the science wing and the arena that as you make decisions in the future, it would be very nice. It would be a tool for you all. We've seen evidence of this sort of thing working well in other locations, but having a comprehensive plan and goals for the facility. So when you do a re-roof, the re-roof and it might touch metal panels, the mansard panels, for example, and you might start to look at how can we make this thing look uniform, So taking a broad look at the whole building along with, the improvements that Hal's already identified with re-roofs, looking at potential program changes, if we looked at something as far as a replacement or an addition to the west wing, what would that be? What program would go there? How would it work? How would it fit? So in the fee breakdown, we've identified, okay, the basic elementary schools that we know of, we can very easily identify the amount of time and effort spent. So what we were proposing is to handle the high school and the middle school because those two could take different directions. Do that on an hourly basis, kind of like we were doing the Denning Center, so that, we invest what we invest and we don't overestimate or underestimate. So what we would do is just keep you guys up to date as to where we are, in that process. So
Did everybody see the fee and the hourly rate too? Total 150 and 50,000.
I like this because it has a little bit of flexibility in the fees, that estimated hourly, maybe more, maybe less, but it's not just set in stone depending on, I know anytime you go into a building and you start looking, you find things.
you find things and it may take a different path. It may not be as involved as you think it may be. So gives us, like you said, flexibility to kind of guide it as we go. with that.
Do we need to kind of give you an idea when they would be able to start?
Yes, we can start soon. I highlighted in there that the schedule, we would anticipate this being 6 months, 8 months, somewhere there. A lot of it's going to depend on what avenues we have to take to get everybody together. So we'll work with Dr. Dyer on what he feels would be the best way to handle that. It could slow down because of that, right? But we'll do the best we can. But we do plan to start the process soon. And the Denning Center, I'll give you just a quick update on the other. We're planning on getting started a week from today. So we'll be on site that week and we'll be doing field measuring. We're gonna be bringing engineers on board to look at different aspects so that we can come back with a report to you on what we found, what the deficiencies are, and what we think those costs will be to make improvements before we get into looking at repurposing the possibility of that. So
The $150,000, did that come out of the money that came from the high center?
Well, it could be part of that bond issue money, or it could possibly come out of the ESSER CARES Act money too, depending on what.
So we're okay.
Yeah, one of those two sources can easily take care of that.
I make the motion that we approve the long-term facilities and working with community tectonics. For the cost being estimated around $150,000.
Any more questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
thank you.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we're excited to begin.
That's exciting times.
We're back to Al Taylor now.
Thank you,
We're going to
Brian.
the water line.
Are you gonna listen to the ball game and drive home?
Yeah.
Al, you gonna switch?
Yeah, we can go to the water lines and,
Yeah, and then Brian can take off.
we've had some, interesting things happen, since our meeting in October and even the last school board meeting. So I need to update you, and we need to move into something that's actually in the 5-year plan, and we're gonna need to move it ahead. It's, we have a 4-inch water line at the high school that feeds the west wing. That line has broke. It was, unfortunately, the way it has broken, it broke under the ground where it's inaccessible. And it was a large break, so, we had to shut the water off. Fortunately, the timing was good. It happened at the Christmas holidays. We were on virtual, so we were able to get out and do some digging. It took us much longer to find the leak. We had a master plumber come in to make the repairs, and also many of the maintenance folks ended up having to help out as well. We had probably, at one point, half the staff working over the holidays to get that completed. We had to run a temporary 4-inch water line to the west wing to get it hooked back up so that we'd be able to operate the west wing. It was it's an interesting situation if you go over between the west wing and the east wing right now on the south side of the commons. You'll see a big little plastic cover over a line going up the side of the building, and it's a bunch of orange fencing to protect our students. So because of that, that is strictly temporary.
What did you tell me today? Give you a better idea, in the commons area where the steps go up, that's the lines underneath that.
We believe the leak in the line is underneath there. So we're talking the repair itself. There's no way to make the repair, and you can't tear concrete out in 2 weeks and repair it. So we had to make that temporary repair. We're looking at an extensive repair for this water line. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, actually, the water line's in the same place as the sewer line, and a major part that we have on camera of the sewer line needs to be repaired. So, knowing we've got to make the repair to the water line, and that it's where the sewer is, I'm gonna come to you now, basically, for, bringing that up that's something that needs to be done. We need to start looking at it, and get a plan together, and then start bidding that out. And as we said before, it's, at the October meeting, this is just an unknown type of situation. This is not an easy repair for the sewer. It's not an easy repair. I doubt most plumbers have actually had to do something in a working building like we have. I've talked to Ms. O'Brien about it. We'll still work out a way to keep the school open, knowing that We have more students there, we may have more students there in the summer than we had ever had in the past. So that is an issue that we know that we will work out, and that's what I talked to Mr. Bryan about. So that's what I want to.
What was the other problem? You said when you dig in the asphalt and a lot of concrete is still left there, and you know, the road used to go between the buildings.
Instead of
You
removing
had to
it,
dig through that to get to that.
that's what took so long to get to the line is what we weren't expecting to find the old walkway and the old asphalt still there. We figured they would have removed it. And it was still there, so we actually, that line is 10 foot under the building.
So Hal, is this the one, you know, there used to be a boiler under the dome, in the
Right.
basement, and they heated the water that went over to the junior high. Which is, it wasn't insulated, I mean, I just don't even understand how long they had to run water to get hot water over there, but is that the line, is that line
No,
still
this-
there?
That line has been gone.
Okay.
That line has been gone for a little while. No, this is the original water line that was built at the middle school.
Oh, wow.
This is the original water line that came up, and it's an old black iron water line. So it's made out of steel, and it goes into the building under the chorus room. So,
How can you just leave that line there and be able to put a new line coming in and going out? Is that possible?
well, the problem with that is you can't leave that line outside of the building. I don't think we'd want to leave it outside
No.
of the building, so, and it goes exactly the same place the sewer line goes, so, I mean, we could, I think that's one of the things that we need these folks to tell us about.
Yeah.
What alternatives do we have? We need them to look at it and come up with a plan. And if we do the water line along with the sewer, that'll save a tremendous amount, because the water line's easier, but by itself, it's an additional cost, so, like I said, I would come to you saying we need to do these together and look at doing this in phases. You know, phase one, or phase two, if they find out a phase three possibly. But I think that's where our engineer has to look and make determinations.
Question I asked him today, you gotta do it in the summer. It's gonna take at least 2 summers, maybe 3. Brian's coming back tomorrow with an engineer, right?
Yeah, we're gonna start to sort through it, to figure out.
You're talking about going down 10 or 12 feet and tearing up the inside of the building and trying to get it back. You said, you know, we'll be able to complete it all one summer. It's gonna be at least 2 summers. Is that right, Brian?
I think it would be too much strain on the building. That's just my preconception for seeing it. You know, it'd be a lot of work to try to get done. It'd be impossible to do it all in one summer.
That's why I wonder about just leaving it under there and just put a new one coming in and going out. I know someone else had a problem like that at a house, and that's what they did. They
Well,
just left it down there.
We could do that with the water line, if we could figure out how to get it back there
Yeah.
and not freeze. I mean, we could look at that with the water, but we can't do that with the sewer. And that's where we get into the issue of, in order to fix the sewer, you're gonna have to dig all that up anyway.
And the sewer is our responsibility. It's not, doesn't belong to the city, does it?
No, it's all us.
So is this the whole pipe, or is this just a section, or we don't know, or, I mean?
With the sewer,
Well, either pipe. I mean,
with the
is it gonna be
sewer,
that?
it's got multiple issues all the way down.
Yeah.
We know that the sewer pipe is broken underneath right there, the same place we think the water line is, which is in the actual hallway connector of the commons to the science wing. We think it's actually, we know it is because we camera it, so the sewer line, we know is actually broken down there. And will have to be lifted and repaired there. And, we think that's probably where the water line is broke as well.
Is it functioning at all?
The water line?
The sewer?
Yeah, the sewer is still functioning at this point. We have to bring in extra services to work quite often to keep the bathrooms in the back functioning. So it is functioning at this point in time, but I can't promise y'all. It's one of those things that we just don't know.
Give any ballpark figure?
On-
We're talking about 3 years.
What I put in the total plan, and it's, so let me just paint a real quick picture for you. you're talking about excavation equipment inside the building, and you're talking about trenching equipment. Down on the end, we're talking about, you start going, more than 4 foot deep, you have to put trench protection for your workers to keep them safe. So you're talking something that gets very difficult, expensive, fast, and then to get it done so you can come back in and put the finishes back in place before school. So so that's why I put such a high price tag back when we did it, as much as $1 million, because I'm talking to plumbers and everybody who's scratching their head as to, it's going to take somebody to really sit down, and we need to have an engineering plan before we get any kind of, because the engineer is gonna be the one who dictates the cost of because he's gonna have to look for alternatives. So,
When the guy comes tomorrow, how soon will you do it?
Well, I think he'll be able to put some solutions on the table. We've already talked, what my hope would be, we could come back to the next meeting and we could have some information to pass along, different strategies to look at, ideas of time schedule, and just to kind of be able to, like Al's doing, talk through what that full scope is. It's not an easy task. But maybe what we will do, we'll explore all the possibilities. Looking, is there a way to come in shallower with the new line and make it, so we're going to be looking at inverts and just brainstorming to see if there's a way to do this, cost effectively.
What is that, February 1st, is it?
Our next meeting.
Yeah, well, almost halfway through January.
Is our temporary fix gonna hold that long, or do we?
oh yeah,
need to
we
be
did a
able to call
temporary
special
fix that'll
meeting?
hold us till summer. We did a temporary, so we're good till summer. It's just not very attractive if you get around there and see it. And like I said, we're confident it'll keep us till then. But it's not something we can just say. And so we've had to run heat tape to keep it from freezing in case we get bad weather.
And you do need to keep the superintendent off the box there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I will upset that how they mentioned my excavator skills.
So, and like I said, it is plastic, it's a industrial plastic, but at the same time, it's subject to vandalism, very easily vandalism, that type of thing. So that's why I say it's not a permanent fix, but it was an economical fix to get us up and going.
So tonight, I don't think we're looking for a vote. Tonight is just informational in nature. We'll come back with information that has to be done. Is that correct?
Well, it actually,
We need to vote on tonight.
the only thing would be to move forward with the project from the standpoint of the architect.
It's up to the board. You want to vote on that, or you want to just?
What do you need now?
He needs to go ahead for the.
We need to go ahead
architects.
because, we're actually hiring the architects.
We'd given you a fee proposal to look at the sewer, so tomorrow the engineer's we've shared information throughout the holidays. So tomorrow he's gonna look at, what his involvement will be, so we could come back and tell you.
So why don't we just give them a go ahead without a vote? They'll bring us numbers to vote on in February.
And we're gonna treat it like an emergency. You
Are we all
had asked about
agreement
timing.
We need the architects to do that.
Charlie, you had asked about timing. The engineer is going to treat it as an emergency, so it'll be something that, he gets to work on quickly.
And we'll need time to bid this because like I say, not every plumber in the world can want to tackle this. This is gonna take special folks that have special skills.
If you can have something, today's 11th, and we're middle of the month almost, and February 1st, you can have something by then. So, I agree, we need to keep going.
I think you got to go ahead. Everybody's in agreement. Okay, Charlie, you got.
Al, you want to tell about the Stewart too?
Well, the Stewart would be the same thing. We'll just bring back the Stewart in February as well. They've already been looking at that, so we'll do the same thing with Stewart if you're okay. We'll bring it into the same meeting, and let you vote on moving forward with
The
Stewart.
flooring, that Stewart one we're talking about. The flooring. Brian, see you, man. Get out.
Thank you, guys.
Guys,
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Al's got one more about the easement of middle school and.
The easement you voted on before was the easement for TDOT. It was the easement for TDOT. This is actually a right-of-way for Cleveland Utilities, just to run their utilities for us. The As you received, the proposals of $15.75.19 for the right-of-way in front of Candy Creek and $7,834.42 for the right-of-way in front of CMS. So I'm just needing, that I do need your approval, vote on, because then when you vote on it, okay, again, we still have to send this to the city council and then approve it. And,
This is the approval to accept the money and give them the right of way.
and give them the right-of-way.
And you all saw the checks,
Send
right?
it to us, make a motion for that.
Okay, second? Krista? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
One question, I had a parent call me, the awnings, especially Candy Creek, that won't be done till the summer, right? Any awnings before we approve?
Yeah, we'll wait closer to summer. If we can, we'll probably start looking at it.
But the 4 locations, most of them will be in the summer.
Most of them are pretty intrusive. We'll have to wait till summer.
Thank you, Charlie. Is that all for you?
Yep.
Thank you, Hal.
Yes.
All right, I think we're
Officer
to
election.
the officer election. Yeah. Thank you, I didn't know Brian was here, so you know. Just a suggestion, next time, if you know who's gonna drive.
Hal told me he thought he was, I didn't know for sure
We
he's out.
could move him higher up on the agenda, so, because we know he has to drive back
Oh,
across.
he's coming back tomorrow too.
I would leave him, so apologies, he's great about it. He works a lot there. Okay, Dr. Doug.
Okay, we have officer elections, last agenda item, and I will take nominations for who would like to be, or who would you like to nominate as the chairman of the school board for this coming year?
I would like to nominate Dawn to continue for next year. We have a lot of fun things to do, and I think she'll do a good job.
Any other nominations?
No.
Do we have a second for this nomination, Charlie? Okay, I guess we need to take a vote. All acclamation? Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, very good. Congratulations. Would you like to give a speech?
No. There's a ball game in 20 minutes. They will unelect me chairman if we stay here till 8 o'clock.
Okay, I'll take nominations for vice chairman.
I'll nominate Krista.
Okay, Krista has a nomination.
Second.
Second, you have a second? And we can vote by acclamation, if that's okay?
Yes.
Okay, congratulations to Krista as vice chair. Would you like to give a speech? Okay, move right along. And finally, chairman pro tem. So, do we have a nomination for chairman pro tem?
Peggy.
Thank you, yes.
Okay, nomination for Peggy. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second? By acclamation?
All right, yes.
Approved. Congratulations, everyone, for your new roles.
We're not very political on this board, are we? Does anybody have anything else they want to bring before the board? I know we're getting close to 8 o'clock. Dr. Myers?
I hope the SEC wins tonight.
All right, we'll adjourn by general consent. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.